Welcome to Rathalos Watch. Today, I am going to talk about my top 10 monsters in the Monster Hunter universe that I think should return to Monster Hunter Wilds or should make a comeback in future titles. This video might be a little controversial in the community and will probably stir up some strong opinions. That's okay, controversy can be fun, it keeps the comment section alive and I love engaging with you all. If you're excited for Monster Hunter Wilds or just want more Monster Hunter content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's begin. Number 10, Gammoth. While Gammoth doesn't really have an amazing fight, it still shocks me to this day that she is the only of the Fated 4 monsters that has never made an appearance ever again, ever since her debut in Monster Hunter Generations. Gammoth is the only mammoth-like monster in the entirety of Monster Hunter. This gives her a huge edge when it comes to being unique. She is absolutely massive in size and is extremely slow, and perhaps her slow movements and attacks is what makes the fight a tad boring. However, despite all that, the technology is now at a much different level than it ever was, and the only reason, from what I understand, Capcom could not include her in Iceborne was simply because she was just too large for the zone. The sense of scale and physical size of environments in Monster Hunter Wilds is much larger now. I believe Capcom can easily now find a way to fit her in there, assuming that there is a snow locale. It's worth noting that Rathalos was the last of the 4 fated monsters in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, along with Glavenus in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and Mitsutsune was in Monster Hunter Generations and also in Monster Hunter Rise. With new tech in place, I believe Capcom can either redesign her fight or give her some additional moves or even make her a tad faster. Her ecological interactions would also be quite interesting, especially if Tigrex also exists in Monster Hunter Wilds, since the Tigrex likes to feed on the young Gammoth babies. Capcom, it's now time to bring Gammoth back and let her shine in Monster Hunter Wilds. You have no excuses at this point. Worst case scenario, I could see her return in a title update or G-Rank expansion if she does not make it in the base game roster. Number 9, Yian Garuga. With Yian Kutku's return, you might as well bring back the rest of the KFC squad, including Yian Garuga. I will never forget encountering Yian Garuga for the first time in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on the PSP. This monster was quite difficult and was essentially a Yian Kutku on steroids and crack. I remember killing it for the first time. It took me almost the entire quest and barely made the timer. A lot of people like this monster, especially veteran hunters. While he did appear in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, I still want to see him in Monster Hunter Wilds and believe that he would make a great addition to the Yian family. As for the ecology, Yian Garuga is known to dislike Yian Kutkus. As a matter of fact, they like to go to their nests and steal their eggs, so this alone could provide for some very interesting interactions. On top of that, it's also a monster that can be frenzied by Gore Magala, and if Gore Magala does return to Monster Hunter Wilds, then Yian Garuga has another reason to make an appearance as well. Number 8, Akantor. Akantor is an intimidating monster that you fight like a true hunter, man to man in a 1 versus 1 in one of the parts of the volcanic locale in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. He is an oversized, gigantic snapping turtle that is classified as a flying wyvern and at one point actually had wings and was able to fly, believe it or not. I enjoyed fighting this thing with my longsword in the game. Dodging his frontal attacks was fun and he always keeps you on your toes. He utilizes literally everything he has under his belt, including burrowing under the ground. Both of his arms, his head, his body, and even his tail, that is just massive, will slap you in the face quite easily even if you are in front of him if you're not careful. Akantor felt like an endgame boss, but in actuality he's more of a mid-game boss that meant business and was quite the challenge for a lot of people. In terms of ecology, I think it would be dope to fight him during some sort of a volcanic eruption period, assuming that there is a fire locale in Monster Hunter Wilds. I could possibly see him coming out when the magma starts to flow out all around the surrounding environment or something like that. I don't believe he would be the apex predator of the region, only because Capcom seems to be introducing only new monsters when it comes to the apex predators of the locales. But then again, maybe it's 2 new apex predators and 2 returning? I don't know. Regardless of that, I think he is a worthy monster and not many newcomer hunters ever had the chance to fight him, and I believe they deserve to experience it for the first time. Number 7, Rajang. I might get some hate for this and that's fine, but I am not gonna sit here and deny that I just love Rajang. It's such a fun fight and it's challenging. That is unless you are fighting him in Monster Hunter Rise, of course, where he was nerfed to the ground so that even a poor handicap individual could slay him. The addition of wire bugs and the wyvern riding just made the fight way more meaningless and not as enjoyable. I know Rajang has been in pretty much all of the past games, but he's just too much of a big dick monster monkey that I just enjoy slaying over and over again. His music theme is dope and he always keeps you on your toes too. It's worth noting that Kongalala, Rajang, and Blangonga were all brand new fanged beasts that were introduced in the second generation of Monster Hunter. You could fight all of them in a single game in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. The old version of Rajang, however, is quite doo-doo and was infamously known for being overly difficult. I believe that his best version is in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. It's fun, challenging, and feels like a true G-rank type monster that is meant for more experienced hunters. If Rajang does exist in Monster Hunter Wilds, I really want to see him interacting with other monkeys, such as the Congalala. I mean, who doesn't want Congalala engaging in a turf war with Rajang? I can only imagine Congalala throwing his poop to get him to leave. That would be the ultimate troll. I need to see the monkey doo-doo being thrown at Rajang in 4K at 120 FPS on my RTX 4090. Make it happen, Capcom, or I'll have a band of Congalalas throw buckets of shit at your headquarters in Japan. Number 6. Seltas Queen. We really need more Neopterans, and if you are going to be bringing any of them back, then it has to be none other than the Seltas Queen. This was another monster that made their debut in Monster Hunter 4, and it is truly one of the most unique fights you'll ever experience in the franchise. First, there's a quest where you just fight the Seltas, who resembles a flying mantis, who is a male. His fight is not really anything special, and he is an early game monster that's very easy. But eventually, you get a quest where you fight the Seltas Queen, who is the female and is the alpha leader of the species. The lore and ecology between the Seltas Queen and Seltas is quite insane. The queen is a ground insect that's incapable of flying. Meanwhile, Seltas is able to carry her and transport her wherever she needs to be. Essentially, they create a perfect symbiosis, and they fight and protect each other when needed. However, if the Seltas Queen is out of energy, she will literally kill and consume Seltas to continue living, and she will call upon a new Seltas by spraying pheromones. Badass psychology and quite brutal circle of life, if you ask me. Considering that Monster Hunter Wilds is all about interactions with all the monsters and their environments, I have a hard time imagining Seltas Queen not appearing in the next mainline entry. It would be quite the stupid decision to not include both of them. Let me know if you feel the same way in the comments. Number 5. Seregios. This aerial predator is the definition of a perfect recipe for Monster Hunter Wilds. Seregio comes from an unknown land. We do not even know of his origin, and that alone already suggests he's from the Forbidden Lands. On top of that, apex predator Seregios also exists. They are invaders that fly from one location to another, fighting for territory and control. Seregios' fight is a lot of fun. He is the closest monster that you can find to a falcon, or rather an eagle, in the universe of Monster Hunter. He can also shoot out his sharp scales and get you to bleed, and his diving and sliding kick move is phenomenal. It's such a thrill to see it coming towards you, and even feels better when you time your dodges perfectly. This fight, surprisingly, was actually pretty good in Monster Hunter Rise, I'm not gonna lie. Imagine fighting a Congalala or some other monster in the Scarlet Forest, and this dude just comes out of nowhere and starts diving you. Now you are in a lot more trouble than you originally asked for. Or better yet, how immersive would it be to have him just come in and grab a random Talioth off the battlefield and then carry him over to his nest for consumption? Yeah, that would be quite the immersion. I will be genuinely shocked if Seregios is not part of Monster Hunter Wilds or even future titles. Capcom, you know what you need to do? Bring back our sexy eagle predator. Number 4. Nerscylla. This spider really needs to come back for several reasons. First of all, she looks cool as hell and is creepy. On top of that, she is a spider that hunts Gypceros as her main prey. I love the way she fights, and she was also the very first Temnoceran to ever be introduced to the universe of Monster Hunter by making her debut all the way back in the 4th generation in Monster Hunter 4. I know we have Lagiacrus, but there's not a single Monster Hunter game that has more than one Temnoceran existing in a single entry. Isn't that absolutely crazy? We have like 10 million flying vibrants in Monster Hunter World Iceborne that exist at the same time, plenty of fanged beasts in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and a lot of brute vibrants in most games. So why can we not have more than one Temnoceran in a single game? It makes no logical sense to me, Capcom. You need to change this, and that change starts with Monster Hunter Wilds. To top it all off, I want Nerscylla and Lagiacrus to have a turf war where they fight for territory or food. Lagiacrus's native home seems to be the Scarlet Forest. Meanwhile, Nerscylla chooses to reside in more underground places like the Sunken Hollow in Monster Hunter 4. However, there's a quest where you can fight her in the Primal Forest in the same game, so it would not be unusual to see her roaming in the Scarlet Forest either. Perhaps she could just be a nomad without a nest, looking to fight the Lagiacrus and make one for herself. I'm not sure if Capcom is willing to go that far with ecological interaction, but there's a massive opportunity here to make it really good and satisfy both newcomers and veteran hunters. Bring back Nerscylla. Hopefully the leaks are true. If you are wondering what I'm talking about, then check out my 11 monsters leaked video by clicking on the card in the top top right corner. Number 3, Lagiacrus. As much as I love Lagiacrus and praying every day to the Capcom gods that he will be returning to Monster Hunter Wilds, I just simply do not believe he should be the number 1 monster that needs to return in this upcoming entry, despite his popularity, and that is simply because of the fact that there is no underwater combat in Monster Hunter Wilds. While all of the evidence is already there that he is coming back, including the flood in the Scarlet Forest with Duna, showing off many water waves based attacks. In regards to the underwater combat, the controls were annoying and some of the weapons felt extremely awkward to use. Due to the underwater 3D space, it was also difficult to judge how close or how far away you were from the monster with your weapons. On top of that, Capcom has also gone on the record saying that Balahara is the fixed skeleton that they've had many issues with in the past. For those who do not know, here's an important little history lesson about Lagiacrus. Lagiacrus was supposed to be in Monster Hunter World, then in Iceborne, and then even in Rise, but they kept having problems implementing him. And yes, the fight was gonna be without the underwater. Here is the official prototype footage of him in Monster Hunter World before he got scrapped. At this point, Lagiacrus is almost confirmed, but it's not official till we'll see a trailer or discover it ourselves in the game when we get to play it. Perhaps Capcom has redesigned his fight in a way where fighting him near water is just as good or better than it would have been fighting him under the water. Despite all of this, I still want him to come back quite badly due to nostalgia and his grounded and believable visual design. It would make me very happy, and many other fans would be ecstatic as well, even though the underwater combat would be missing. He is still a fun monster to fight on the land in Monster Hunter Generations in my personal opinion. I will be genuinely shocked if he does not return to Monster Hunter Wilds at this point. Number 2, Gore Magala and Shagara Magala. You cannot include a Gore Magala without a Shagara Magala. They are essentially the same monster, but Shagara Magala is the adult version of Gore Magala, and that is why I'm including both of them. Gore Magala was the flagship of Monster Hunter 4, and a lot of people loved it, including myself. I believe he is one of the best flagship monsters Capcom has ever made, and in my opinion, he is far more interesting than someone like Nergigante. No offense to the Nergigante fans, but I never understood why people like him that much. He is a cool monster and all, but fight-wise, he was alright, and he didn't really look all that intimidating to me, as opposed to someone like Gore Magala. Again, it's a personal preference. If you feel different and want to roast me in the comments, go ahead. The most interesting thing about Gore Magala is his frenzy mechanic, where he infects other monsters with a frenzy virus and the monsters get stronger, more aggressive, and more violent. Think of it like the rage virus from the 28 Days Later movie but in Monster Hunter for the monsters. As a matter of fact, there is a quest in Monster Hunter 4 where you fight a frenzied Congalala, and it was essentially a monkey literally going apeshit crazy. It was great and was much more of a challenging fight than a regular Congalala. Now imagine the implications that frenzy could have in Monster Hunter Wilds. You are roaming the Scarlet Forest or the Windward Plains and come across a frenzied Chotacabra, Congalala, or Raidao, and the monsters are just far more aggressive than ever before. Now you are forced to switch up your fighting style, speed, and reaction time. Both Gore Magala and his adult version Shagara Magala just seem like the perfect fit for what Capcom is trying to accomplish with Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, the 11 Monsters leak video is also suggesting that both of them are returning, and I would not be surprised if they do. Number 1, Qurupeco and Deviljho. Yes, I am going to cheat here, but for a good reason. If someone would have asked me what is the best monster to implement and include for Monster Hunter Wilds from previous generations, then my answer would have been both Qurupeco and Deviljho. There are many reasons why I believe Qurupeco is the most needed monster for not just Monster Hunter Wilds, but even future generations. First of all, his whole design is centered around interacting with creatures across the entire map and summoning them. And I'm not talking about summoning smaller monsters, I'm talking about actually summoning a large monster. How large do you ask? Well, as large as the Great Jaggy, or better yet, the hungry, the most savage, and the most dinosaur-like monster in the existence of Monster Hunter, Deviljho. The grand, big, dig, hungry, and angry pickle. Some people might hate Deviljho for his nature, but most absolutely love him for that exact reason. I will never forget that the quest that I did in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, where I was hunting a Crimson Qurupeco for the very first time in the Flooded Forest. I was just minding my own business and hunting the good old colorful bird, and then all of a sudden a giant scary pickle appeared in the same zone. Being the smart hunter that I am, and spoilers guys, I'm actually really stupid, I just went to a different zone and then waited for one of them to leave or get separated. Came back to the Crimson Qurupeco to fight him some more, and then a few moments later the big scary pickle comes back again. At this point I realized that the bird was just flat out trolling me, and it was a lot more than just a colorful bird being funny at that point. Honestly, it's sad that new hunters who started their hunting journey in Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise never got to experience this. It literally was one of the best things ever in the lifetime of Monster Hunter. It's worth noting that the Flooded Forest is now essentially part of Monster Hunter Wilds when the clemency period occurs in the Scarlet Forest and becomes the Downpour. In terms of ecology, both Qurupeco and Deviljho have the perfect reasons to exist and run rampant in Monster Hunter Wilds. Qurupeco Qurupeco mimics other creatures to call for help and can also buff them and himself with his singing. He is basically the hunting horn of monsters along with summoning skills. Deviljho, on the other hand, is constantly hungry due to his abnormally fast metabolism. He is always in search of energy 24/7, and he is a nomad who travels on his own and consumes whatever creature or monster that crosses his path. Capcom has said many times that the biggest aspect that they're pushing for in the new mainline entry is the ecology and how all the monsters interact with each other. You cannot sit here and tell me that Qurupeco and Deviljho are not the best candidates that need to make a comeback in Monster Hunter Wilds. Capcom, please, I know you already have cooked with Monster Hunter Wilds, but you can cook even more and better if you include these two monsters. Please bring back Qurupeco and Deviljho for the sake of your game and your amazing Monster Hunter community. And those are the top 10 monsters that absolutely need to come back to Monster Hunter Wilds or future generations. Fellow hunters, let me know if you agree with this list, or rather which monsters you think deserve to make a return for Monster Hunter Wilds or future titles in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy hunting.